bathroom now. It's gonna get pretty steamy.
This might take a while. It's very dirty.
Billed as a procedurally generated narrative adventure game, Road 96 is pretty good actually. It's a game about a road trip to the border by a young teen who is trying to get out of the country before election day in a country ruled by an oppressive regime. Playing as one such teen, or it turns out multiple young teens, you'll trek across the country using various methods, be it the bus, be it hitchhiking or walking, and along the way you'll encounter various characters, each one of which has their own story that unfolds through multiple playthroughs. Essentially what we're looking at is a series of scenes, little vignettes, little playable experiences that involve different characters, the order of which is randomized, so you don't know exactly how each road trip will turn out. Being a very narrative-driven game, much of the experience takes place via dialogue. There are little playable minigame sections. It reminds me of something like What Remains of Edith Finch, where it was mostly that, what people would call a walking sim situation, but there were more playable elements than one expects from a game in that genre. It's not quite as frequent here, but there are some fun little distractions, such as throwing bags of money at a cop car to stop it chasing you. This is when you're in a sidecar with two robbers, Stan and Mitch, I think their names are, and they have a fun little story that unfolds where they start off, when you see them in the early goings of the game, they're up to some robbery because they're robbers, and then you find their motivations when you go through different road trips and see them in different contexts. But there's a bit where you're throwing money at a cop car, or there is a rhythm game that sort of comes across like a Res parody. It's all pretty simple, but the vast majority of the game is simply interacting with characters and seeing their stories unfold and getting yourself involved in all sorts of scrapes and jams and other situations, some of which can be quite amusing, some of which can be pretty tense. All of it's quite well written. The various characters are really interesting. Like I said, you've got Stan and Mitch, these two bank robbers. They're probably the best characters. They're the comic relief, but with a sympathetic undercurrent. There's Sonia, a news anchor with a very Fox News vibe. She's firmly in support of Tyrak, who is the man in charge of the country, the despot in charge. There's Zoe, another teen who's trying to get to the border. There's a creepy stalkery type of guy. There's all sorts of interesting characters, and their stories interweave somewhat, so that as you play and get to see the different characters, you get to find out what relationships they may or may not have with each other. A lot of the dialogue choices you have as the player are simply part of the role-playing. There are some that have more long-term impactful consequences. There are a few things you can do that will have an impact on later playthroughs. But for the most part, it really is just these vignettes that play and you're part of them. Each playthrough can be completed in about an hour or so, but you really should keep going. After you've done your first playthrough, you'll be invited to do a chapter 2 with a different team trying to get to the same border, and you will see completely different story vignettes. You will have a completely different experience as you go through each team's journey. Now, the game has some jank to it. Sometimes the frame rate gets a little wonky, character animations are stiff, but the cel-shaded style comic book look is quite nice, so that helps wallpaper some of the cracks. Now, I played on the Switch, and it's quite clear that when it comes to controls, this is better with a mouse and keyboard. Some of the minigames I found to be almost impossible. Luckily, the results aren't really consequential, but some of the minigames, like there's a particular rhythm game where you move a cursor up and down across a bar, and I could not do it with a Switch controller. The interface itself can be quite frustrating as well, no matter what you're playing on, I'd imagine. There are dialogue choices that take the form of little boxes, and in order to select one of those dialogue choices, you have to look at the box and hit a button. Now, that's all well and good until you tie the movement of those boxes to a character's movements. Now, this can make selecting the chosen dialog box, the box you want to click on, really, really bloody difficult. The worst is with this man stumbling in the desert, and with each of his stumbles, the dialogue box moves with him. So you can't select the choice you want without a huge risk of the box moving and you clicking something completely different. In fact, the chances of it happening are quite friggin' high. The idea of this interface is really nice, but their take on it is a little awkward, even with boxes that are perfectly still. This certainly isn't helped by one playing with a controller. Look, I like these types of games on the Switch. I like most games on the Switch. It's the Switch. I like the Switch. And I'm not going to apologise for playing Road 96 on the Switch. I'm not going to apologise for playing Quake on the Switch. I'm not going to apologise for playing games on the Switch, okay? Quake's pretty good. It's Quake. I don't know if you played the remaster they just put out, but it's Quake. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Quake, I'm here to talk about Road 96. A pretty good game, also first person like Quake, but with far less shooting. Plus, Road 96 is set in 1996, which is a year I was alive, but a year a lot of people weren't. And I hate that. I hate being old enough to remember 1996. Although I say that, my memory's shot, so I don't really remember 1996, as much as I simply remember there being a 1996. Anyway, this is neither the time nor the place to pity myself. That's pretty much every single other moment where I'm not working. As far as the voice acting goes, it's mostly pretty good. Pretty much all of the main characters are really well voiced. The side characters not so much, but pretty much everyone in the main cast is really enjoyable to listen to and are effective at being funny or poignant or annoying depending on the character. There's a really nice soundtrack as well. I do like the music in this game. It's a nice little mix of stuff. You can find cassettes in the world which you can play in cassette players or other music sources throughout the game. But the music that plays between sections and everything is really nice as well. I think that wraps it up. I do enjoy Road 96 a lot, actually. Now that I think of it, I've really gotten into my time with it. I think if you're a fan of these narrative-driven games, these ones that are not full of traditional gameplay and are mostly about unfolding a story, I think this one well, it's certainly worth checking out. There's a demo. I played the demo on Switch first and really liked what I saw, so you can check it out yourself if you want. But yeah, it's obviously not going to be for the people who just want to do the combat and the shooting, but for anyone else, I'd say it's worth having a look at. Road 96, I like it, well, quite a bit. Yeah, good. Thank you. Bye.